Chapter 248 of Jujutsu Kaisen recently dropped, and let me tell you, things are about to go crazy. And I think that things are only going to begin to heat up from here, with Higuruma seemingly dying as the executioner's sword disintegrates in Yuji's hands. But on the flip side, we get some really crazy revelations in this chapter that are really significant to the overall plot of the story. First, we learn that Yuji now has reverse curse technique. Second, we see something unusual from Sukuna, basically having an existential monologue mid-battle about his own specific ideals. And lastly, the arrival of our boy Yuta Okotsu. This is primarily what I want to talk about because I've been seeing a lot of people talking about whether or not Yuta will be able to take down Sukuna in the condition he's in, and I thought it would be interesting if I weighed my 2 cents on it. So without further ado, let's talk about how relatively close Yuta and Sukuna are in power, and whether or not I think that this Jujutsu prodigy can match up to the King of Curses. First, I think it's important to note that I don't think that Yuta can beat Sukuna on his own. The way that Jujutsu Kaisen has been setting up the main battle between Sukuna and Jujutsu High is that it's simply not going to be an individual effort that stops Sukuna all on his own. Also, I think that Gojo's whole mission about fostering strong allies needs to manifest in a way where everyone has a contributing factor to ultimately taking down Ryomen Sukuna. And we've seen this already throughout the individual fights that Sukuna has been going through in Shinjuku. First, we had Gojo versus Sukuna, where the use of Gojo's domain expansion fried Sukuna's brain to the point where he could no longer use his domain expansion. Now, we don't know for sure if this is still the case because he revived his body or if he's permanently incapable of using it now, but I guess we'll have to see. Second, we had the fight with Sukuna and Kashimo, where Kashimo's curse technique resorted Sukuna to using his true Heian era form to revive his body. And most recently, we've seen Higuruma use his domain expansion, Deadly Sentencing, to strip away Sukuna's curse tool, Kamutoke. So I believe the theme that we're seeing here is that in each battle that Sukuna is a part of, he's losing more and more of his power and is truly being tested for the first time in 1,000 years. But even still, there's so much at Sukuna's disposal that he could use, so I don't really see him at that much of a disadvantage, even despite losing all of these things. But I think the fight against Yuta Okotsu and Sukuna will be Sukuna's most challenging fight yet, and I'll get to that in just a moment. First, I think it's important to point out just how massive Rika looks in the final page of chapter 248. Like, she's way bigger than what we've seen previously, and I think this has a strong correlation to the training that Yuta did during the 1-month time skip as the team prepared to face off against Sukuna. Also, looking back on the things that we saw Yuta do already, as we saw in chapter 243, Yuta blitzed Kenjaku and sliced his head off before he could launch his anti-gravity curse technique. Although we could attribute this distraction primarily to Takaba and his insanely broken comedian curse technique, I think this feat really shines a positive light on Yuta's character and his character growth. You see, although the circumstances were different, we saw Kenjaku take on and defeat the likes of Yuki Tsukumo, a fellow special grade sorcerer, and someone who could without a doubt hold her own weight. So with Yuta being able to decisively take down a monster threat like Kenjaku not only shows how much potential Yuta has, but is an indication that he'll reach a higher level than special grade, something that Satoru Gojo hinted to way back in the beginning of the series, specifically referring to Yuta, Hikari, and Yuji. Since we now know that in the most recent chapter that Megumi aka Sukuna now has the authorization to begin the merger between Tengen and the rest of humanity, we can solidly conclude that Kenjaku is done for good. At least, I think he is. So now jumping into the fight, I believe that the reason Rika got so much bigger is due to the enhancements of all of Yuta's copied abilities. Being that copy is Yuta's curse technique, he has the ability to, of course, copy any curse technique that he encounters. The prerequisites are still really ambiguous as to how he's able to do this, but the most settled upon answer is that Rika must consume part of their body in some way, or DNA needs to get passed on to either Rika or Yuta. We saw an example of this when Rika took a bite out of Uro, and later Yuta was able to use her sky manipulation curse technique. Normally, having more than one curse technique is next to impossible since the overflow on one's brain would be so great, it would quite literally melt their brain. So Yuta overcomes this by using Rika as a storage device for all of his curse techniques. Basically, think of external hard drive for your laptop like a USB. Over the 1-month time skip, it's likely that Yuta has been training and gaining multiple curse techniques. Therefore, it would make sense why Rika is so much larger than she was in the past. And now that Yuta is finally up against Ryomen Sukuna, this is an amazing opportunity to show what he's truly capable of after this training. It's important to note that while watching Satoru Gojo vs Sukuna, Yuta isn't afraid to step in and help out against Mahoraga and Agito. Keep in mind that this is a Mahoraga that has tanked multiple red, blue, and black flash attacks from Gojo himself. Not a small feat to simply brush off. Now, it's hard to say how effective Yuta would have been ultimately in this fight, considering that a chapter later after Gojo releases his unlimited hollow technique, Yuta mentions how it was better that he never intervened in the first place. But it gives you an idea that Yuta is confident facing off against some of the strongest opponents in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. And we've seen through Jujutsu Kaisen 0 that Yuta is someone with untapped potential and has an infinite ceiling for growth. That's why, similar to Higuruma, I believe that Yuta is going to unlock a specific technique or grow even more capable than he's been thus far. It's been noted before that sorcerers, no matter how talented they actually are, can reach a skill cap or ceiling that they just won't be able to get past. And only a few can get to the supreme heights of Jujutsu like Gojo and Sukuna. This has very much to do with the discussion that Sukuna and Jogo has, where he mentions that he should have disregarded everything like a calamity, and that may have allowed him to rival both him as well as Gojo. And I'm thinking that it might be this mindset that Yuta unlocks during the fight with Sukuna. Given what Sukuna says to Yuta before the fight in chapter 248, that is, he should put up a good fight now. If you don't kill me, everyone you want to save will die. This may hint at how Yuta begins his ascent towards this calamity-like mindset. I think it's possible that Yuji or someone on the anti-Sukuna squad gets seriously injured, sending Yuta into an outrage. It may be at this level of power that Yuta could stand a chance to weaken Sukuna enough for the rest of the team to pick up the pieces. We know that selfishness in the Jujutsu world is the key to unlocking overwhelming power, and I believe that this very thing is the key for Yuta to level up and imagine himself as a stronger force, capable of being on par or even surpassing his late sensei, Satoru Gojo. But I guess we'll just have to wait for the chapter drop to see what ultimately happens. I would love to hear all your thoughts on how you think this fight is ultimately going to go. If you like this JJK content and want to check out more videos on this amazing series, click the link right here for my JJK playlist and like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss when a new video is posted. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Stay curious, anime fam. Peace.